Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Faithful to the Traitors. My name's Ben, and I am round the round table, and I can honestly say, just like Vanda, I'm faithful. That's all I can say.
I believe you're faithful, turns to the rest of the group and smiles a smug smile. I'm also faithful. Hello. It feels like forever since we've done this. We had to have a gap. No one asked, but I thought I'd just mention that we, had a little break, but we're back now. We're back on track. We're doing New Zealand again. We're back to New Zealand. So we hopped the little water gap between Australia and New Zealand. We're back in New Zealand now.
Well, let's stick to New Zealand then, yeah? Let's not get ourselves confused.
It's hard to not get confused because there's so many people. I've had to learn so many people's new names, and it's just very confusing. I just don't know what
Too many friends. We need to get rid of some of them.
We need to banish
many
them.
Friends.
We need to banish them, don't we? Because we're both faithful. We don't need to murder anyone.
Yeah, don't say the wrong word, otherwise you'll be
knocked out straight away.
So yes, episode 2 of New Zealand. Episode 3 of New Zealand.
What a start. This is what people come back for, this content. Thanks for everyone listening, by the way. And thank you, by the way, I also just want to say to everyone who's been giving us reviews, very good, kind reviews as well. Thank you to everyone involved. Thank you for understanding the mess that is Faithful to the Traitors podcast.
Yeah. Hello to our new New Zealand listeners.
Hello to you all. We love you being on board. If you want to invite us to stay for a little while, we don't mind. Pay for the flight.
Yeah,
that'd be even better.
At Paul's pad, we'll be
I'd
there.
love to stay at Paul's pad. His birthday was a huge party, wasn't it? There was one fondant fancy.
From the 99p store, I feel. It was all bought from.
That much.
It was 2 cupcakes, I think, and one...
Couple of cupcakes.
What's that square, which is pink?
Fondant
yellow.
fancy?
Yeah, well, there was one of them there, cut in half.
I used to love a fondant fancy.
And one chair for him.
Yeah, he didn't.
A little table.
I think he begrudgingly invited everyone to his birthday. I don't think he really wanted anyone
there.
There's
only enough food for him, really.
We did do that. Like a cartoon, like when Homer Simpson's excited and he waves his wrist, like his hands in front of his chest, and he goes, ooh. Paul did
Very
that.
camp.
Very excited for his... I know.
Camp Paul is what I'm going to be calling him.
I know we had this discussion in episode 1, and there's the ins and outs of Paul and his past and his history and this and the other, but I have to say, I actually really like him.
See, this is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
I like him as a presenter. I think he's playing the part really well. And he's always got that kind of cheeky little smile on him as well.
Yeah.
Childlike charm to him.
Brody was happy to sweat on him. No problems there.
She wanted to sweat on him, didn't she? Paul kind of declined the invitation.
Politely said no.
Philly was giving him lots of Polaroids of himself to
taking
him.
Photos of him.
Yeah.
Philly can send me a Polaroid.
A double
Address
Polaroid
listed below.
A double Polaroid. That's a
whatever.
reference to Red Dwarf, if anyone
Is
wants
it?
to. Yes. No. So Paul's having a lovely birthday party.
Lots of game playing on this episode. They've stepped it all up a gear.
A lot of discussion, wasn't there? At the round table, I've got half a page of notes of people, one person saying this, one person saying that. The votes were pretty all over the place, though kind of lent toward one person. Again, we'll discuss that at the end. And then a bit of I say a bit of a twist at the end, but a surprise what the traitors, I think, ended up doing when they were at Traitors Tower at the end of the episode. Cool, that's a build-up, isn't it? Stay tuned and listening for our views on all that coming up on
we can't
Faithful to the
forget
Traitors.
to be murdered.
Yes, well, it's someone you wanted
We need
murdered.
to pay our respects. Well, I didn't want her murdered.
You
but
did?
No.
You didn't like her?
Yes, I did.
No,
I
you
like
didn't.
everyone on this series.
Yes.
I said that I think she's going to be murdered because she's getting a small edit, and I thought she was going to be gone on episode 1. I thought she was an episode 1 murder, but no.
But you also
3.
said privately that you didn't really care.
No, I didn't.
So that was that then. Kristen
Don't
is
say
out.
anything unless it's recorded. It doesn't count unless the camera's rolling. That's what RuPaul says. So
There you go. Well,
you can't talk about what I say off camera.
the tape is rolling. It's on record now. Kristen got murdered. As you say, unsurprising, really, because, they said that she kind of had a bit more, she had an influence on decisions, that the last round table was kind of pushed by her, and there's been other names that have been kind of thrown out by her.
She's
as
just
well.
an easy name, wasn't she? She was just an easy murder to not raise suspicion in the right places.
Yeah, it didn't point to anyone. It didn't kind of get rid of someone who would have been an easy murder. You know, it didn't really kind of push toward anyone who didn't vote for Lauren at the round table, on the first round table, too much either. I think it made Colin, Vander and Matt, the three that didn't vote for Lauren, the only three that didn't vote for Lauren, it made them safer, actually, more than anything. And it kind of then made everyone's personality, you know, it took the whole episode, or the whole day, I suppose, for everyone to kind of change their tune about Vander. But Colin and Matt were never really on the cards. Although Colin, I think, has kind of changed that slightly now, because I think Colin's kind of...
I worry for Colin's future.
His personality is kind of, I think... And it's not grating on the group. I think the group like him. I think he's a very friendly and likeable person. I think that people kind of worry that...
He comes across as a bit untrusting, though.
Well, no, he makes a joke of everything. So he can't take anything seriously. And the group are kind of like being very upset, getting upset by that.
So he'll say something, but then like smile, and it's like, I don't know how to... A lot. I think two of them said they didn't know how to read him at all, didn't they? I think Vander said that, and I think Matt said that as well. So I think he's a bit tricky to read, because people don't trust if they can believe what he's saying, or if it's a joke, or if he's being silly. I think that's working against him.
He diverts suspicion by using his humour, to use the words of Mike.
Right, quote.
There you go.
When you get a soundbite. We've moved on from poor Christine, who's not even cold yet from her murder, and you've just moved on past her.
Well, you don't like her, so...
I do like her. I'm about to do her fact file from a wonderfully written article that I found from the spinoff.co.nz.
High quality writing.
I'm going to skip the first two sentences because it's just stupid.
No. You can't say that now and not raise suspicion of what has been said in the first two sentences.
Okay, well,
is it like she likes Rice Krispies with a spoonful of sugar?
I don't really know. I think it's the person writing the article is putting their own thing in here for no reason, because it's in the first person. It says, I was today years old when I first encountered the phrase candle girl boss, and I assume you were probably the same. Does she assume right?
Oh, I guess then that Kristen is a candle maker.
I don't know. Happy candle girl boss birthday, one and all. Celebrations aside, entrepreneur Kristen seems like an absolute hustler, running a home decor business, running her aforementioned waxy empire, and using her platform to inspire women and celebrate femininity. Here's just hoping she's not burning the candle at...
both ends.
Both ends on the Traitors New Zealand.
There you go.
So that's her fact file of the poorly written article, which didn't give me a fact about her.
Well, because it was so poorly written, I'm going to talk about something completely off subject, which is... I got invited once when I was younger to a Candle at Both Ends party.
What? A party that goes like all day and all night?
I guess so. I never went, because I didn't like the person, but I never really discovered who or what a Candle at Both Ends party is.
It must be one, maybe it's a work day one, so you go to work and then go, it's like middle of the week party, so you have work, party, then work the next day.
Well, if anyone out there who's listening knows what a Candle at Both Ends party is, or indeed has
Kristen might.
Well, Kristen, if you're listening, let me know, at Traitors Podcast on X, or at Faithful to the Traitors on Instagram. Soon to be on Threads. I've learned how to swap profiles. Ooh. Anyone who's listening to the Australian...
Yeah, you're mixing up podcasts now.
If you're listening to the Australian podcast, you'll know all about what I discuss about that.
We have a strict rule on this podcast where we only talk about the series we're talking about on the episode.
But
and
so
you've
difficult.
Now twice talked about the Australian one.
But it's so difficult when there's two series corresponding. Like,
I seem to be able to do it. I have two separate soundboards.
Yes, but I'm much more highly strung. I'm much more on the edge.
Get rid of the psychic. It kind of makes sense.
Replace psychic with Alex.
I think they knew what psychic meant. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm replacing the word
How
psychic
rude.
with Alex. Get rid of Alex. It makes sense.
Well, murder
It's
me
in
then,
you.
because you're not going to banish me.
I
Because
can't
I'm too well liked.
I can't murder you because I'm a faithful.
So you
don't
say.
try and
Lies.
stick me out there.
Lies.
Anyway, so Christine's gone, so we can. That's
Breakfast
that
table.
now.
Breakfast
Cold
table
and
chat.
dead.
Breakfast table chat then. So, Matt is not under suspicion by Brooke. And do you know why? Because they both came to the show and they bought the same pyjamas. And as a sign of loyalty, Brooke said to Matt the night before, I'm coming down to the breakfast table wearing my pyjamas.
Yeah.
If you do the same thing,
we can trust each other.
We can trust each other.
And
And
I'll
do you know what he
recruit you.
did? He did. He wore his pyjamas. M&S,
who wore them better though?
M&S special.
Brooke
But
or Mike?
They were different
Matt?
colours.
I preferred Brooke.
Brooke, oh yeah. I mean, no offence to Matt, but Brooke is, I think, a bit, he suits those pyjamas
I'm talking
better.
about the pyjamas.
That's what I'm saying. He suits the pyjamas better. Okay. You weren't just talking about pyjamas. They were the same set of pyjamas, but different colour.
No, they weren't.
One was blue, one was green.
Yeah, but one had like stripes and one had crisscrosses.
They both had checks.
Okay, I don't think they did. But anyway.
I was a bit disappointed that, because I think Brooke had the green pyjamas. I hope that Matt had red pyjamas, because then they'd be like Mario and Luigi, you see? That would be nice.
Well, it was enough to form a bond to be recruited, so you just don't know what it is in the end, can you?
I built up such an amazing beginning of this podcast, and you've just knocked down.
People already know the end.
Yeah,
so they're not going to be surprised.
People
they're as surprised as we are.
People might be like, "Oh, I can't wait to find out what this little tidbit is at the end." Anyway, yes, but I've got a lot to say about them, the traitors bringing Brooke into the fold. I have a lot to say,
Well,
but
we'll do that later.
We'll do that later, if I may. But there is other people out there as well who's now under suspicion. As you said, Colin was under suspicion by Mike because he diverts suspicion.
Dan was under suspicion from his friend Brooke because he knows him.
Dylan saw Mike would act differently when Lauren had been eliminated.
They knew each other.
Yeah.
This is a big problem in the series.
Everyone knows one another.
And not just like they bumped into each other. They're like, oh, I knew you for 20 years ago. You introduced me to my wife. I've been to your wedding. It's like, all right. It's like best friends club.
I mean, I don't know.
This is the problem.
Geographics of, if that's the word, of New Zealand. Right. I don't know like the population and the general
it's
kind
more
of
than
like
20.
I get that, but I believe that New Zealand's quite a small country, so I think you're more likely to know one another. The 5
20
levels,
people on a contestant.
The 5 levels
show.
of separation. Well, for instance, you've gone on holiday before, halfway across the world to Egypt, and you still bumped into someone you worked with.
I didn't like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, but you still, yeah. So it happens, and in a small country like New Zealand, it's more likely to happen.
No, because Brody knows.
Well, Brody
knows the host, Paul.
Brody knows Dan.
Yeah, she knows Matt and Mike, and
Brooke
Mike all know
Dan.
them.
Brooke and Dan play poker together,
and they all know Julia.
Sam knows a few people as well.
Yeah,
Sam Smith,
the
Emmy Award winning Sam Smith.
It's like they all know each other.
Yeah.
I don't like that. It's because it ruins the game. Because then
it doesn't ruin the game.
It does because Brooke knew straight away that Dan's a traitor.
It would ruin the game if
and they knew that
it would
Lauren
ruin the game,
was a traitor.
It would ruin the game if they were not voting for the people because they knew them, but they are still voting for them under suspicion.
It's unfair.
It's not unfair
because you're picked as a traitor and you're meant to blend in, but then it's impossible because you know each other.
It's only unfair if people base their opinions on whether they're a traitor or faithful on them outside
they
of
all have
the group. No, they haven't, because they vote for them still.
Yeah, but the only reson Brooke suspected Dan to be a traitor is because he knew him from the outside, not because of what he did on the game.
Brooke knew Mike. Mike introduced him to his wife. He still voted for him today.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, but
so it's not based on anything. And Brooke had mentioned that he wanted to ask the group. In fact, I've written it down. Brooke believed that he noticed that Dan was uncomfortable at the breakfast table, but he didn't think he could get enough people to vote for Dan. So, based on that, not because of his friendship, based on that,
you're not listening
he decided... Yeah, no, you're saying that because of outside of the show, they know each other, they're not voting for each other.
No, I didn't say that.
Go on then, what did you say?
I'm allowed to talk.
You are.
I feel like Chloe on the... What was it? Australian Series 1 now.
Well, so you should
carry on.
I don't want to
speak. I was saying that Dan hasn't done anything during this game to make Brooke suspect him.
Yes, he
the
has.
only reason he suspects him is because of his knowledge of him before the game, knowing him, and now knowing him in the game is the only reason he suspects him.
Which he's done in the game. Because in the game, he said that he's uncomfortable at the breakfast table, so he's done something in the game.
No, but like if I'm Anna, for example, who doesn't know Dan, Dan hasn't done anything to make Anna say, "Ooh, you're a traitor," because she doesn't know him before. Whereas Brooke knew him 20 years ago before some wedding somewhere, and they're best friends. He can say, "Ooh, Dan's a little bit quiet during that thing. I know he's a traitor because he's not like that on the outside. With me is what I meant.
Fair, but he
Please
has
email
noticed
in people and let me know
Well,
what
we'll
you
get
think.
to that in a second. But he has said that the reason he's seen that is because they play poker together. Using Anna as your example.
She was just the first one because she's A for Anna.
No. I'll use it the same example. Anna doesn't know.
You
Dan.
leave Anna alone.
You're right. No, I love Anna. I'm just defending her. Anna doesn't know Dan.
Exactly.
So she's probably not looking for it.
Exactly. That's
But
the point of
then-
this game. You're meant to be for 20 strangers and you're given a role and you're meant to play the game and hide in the game.
No.
But it's impossible to if you know each other
But you
before.
can't hide if you do something. So basically, yes, okay, outside they know each other. So maybe Brooke is maybe looking at Dan more often because they have friendship there. But then Dylan looked at Mike during the round table, found a small flaw, and then went with it. So it's
And he
no
was
different than
incorrect.
that. Well,
He
he was
wasn't
incorrect, but that's neither here nor
So that
there.
means it is unfair.
That's neither here nor
that
there.
means it is unfair if you're a traitor and you know people from the
No,
outside.
it's not, because that's random that you're a traitor. That's neither here nor there. If just because Mike wasn't a traitor doesn't mean that Dylan didn't spot it. If Mike had been a traitor and Dylan had spotted it, then they would have gotten rid of another traitor. That's a moot point. Benjamin Andrews.
I think it's unfair
But I don't
that they
think
all
it's
know each other.
They don't all know each other,
They
though.
do.
They
I'd say
don't
about
know each other.
80% of them know each other.
I would only say it was unfair if they were making groups and alliances, which you could, if you'd use the argument of the fact that Dan is now trying to recruit Brooke.
Exactly.
That's unfair, you could argue. But again, I don't think it is, because it's fun to see in the game, because Brooke is now suspecting Dan, but he can't get enough people on side. And that's the only reason he's not doing anything about it. If he knew he could get enough people on his side to support his theory that Dan is a traitor, then on this episode, he would have gone for Dan.
I don't
So
think
it's
he
not
would have.
unfair outside of the group.
I think he obviously knows that Dan's a traitor, but he thinks if I get rid of him now, it's too early in the game because they've already got rid of one on episode 1. And he was gonna play the long game.
He's been talking to the production crew.
Yeah, he was playing the long game. He's going to wait till a bit later to then get rid of the traitors. You don't want to get rid of them too early
Yes, because they can recruit
because they
more.
just get replaced. Yeah.
But anyway, as you say, what do you think, listener? Dearest listener out there.
One listener. Listener single.
Listeners, do you think that it's unfair that the group, some of the group, not all the group, know one another coming into the game? At
And I'm
Traitors...
sorry.
That's okay. At Traitors Podcast on X or Twitter, at Faithful to the Traitors on Instagram, or email us, faithfultothetraitors@gmail.com. I feel like this is a discussion for a future show, so get in touch.
And not just know each other by bumping into each other at an award ceremony, introducing each other to each other's wives,
Is that
going
the
to
next
weddings.
step, is it?
Well, that's what Mike and Brooke.
Yeah.
He said he introduced
And
me to his
Brooke
my wife.
then voted for Mike. And then
I know,
said,
it's
I don't
still
expect to be invited
unfair.
to any more parties. Well, it's not unfair because he voted for him.
No, it's unfair.
It's only unfair if he didn't vote for him. If he had said, I'm not voting for Mike because I love him and he's my best friend and he invited me to my wife.
Well, he should
then
have
of
voted for Dan
course
because he
that would be
thinks he's a
unfair.
traitor.
Because that's bias outside of the show. But he's basing, the same as our podcast, we don't base our theory or opinions on people outside of the show. Hence why I like Paul. Outside of the show, I think Paul is a terrible person. But on the show, I think
I
he's
based
a
my
good
like
presenter.
of Philly from his Instagram pictures.
Outside the show. So you shouldn't, well, there you go. That's unfair.
Okay. Philly's my least favourite now then.
What's Philly's Instagram like?
I'm not telling you.
Why?
Because I don't want to influence you outside the show.
Are they what are they? Environmental pictures or are they body shots?
Don't know. You have to do your own research. I'm going to be like those Facebook women. Do your own research.
What about the conspiracy theories? Is Philly
Yes.
one big conspiracy
No,
theory, is he? Has he come
not.
down from Mars
Although
and made crop
Dylan's
circles?
book sounds interesting. Speaking of conspiracy theories.
Dylan's got a book.
Yes, he's an author. Dylan is.
Is he? What's his book about?
Conspiracy theories.
Do you want to
But not-
divulge any further? Why are you being so clipped with your answers?
Because
What's
I don't
Philly's
wanna-
Instagram page? Look for yourself. What's Dylan's book about? Conspiracy theories? Come on, elaborate. We've got half an hour to fill here.
I haven't read his
Stretch.
book. I've just seen it on Amazon, and it's
Right.
about how conspiracy theories have been embedded into everyday culture. Is what it's about.
I mean, that's been going to the end of time. If we're going to talk about that.
Well, we're not talking about
Spanish
it.
flu.
I'm just saying
back
he's
in
an
the
author.
1910s.
Right, so let's talk about the mission. Let's move on. We've had breakfast.
All right.
Polaroid pictures.
Polaroid picture. It's a simple game. It's similar to the game that they played at the church in the UK version, which is they rung the bells, played a tune. what's it, a non-copyright song. So it cost them nothing to do. And
It's a bit of a mix of two missions, because then the other half of the mission was a bit like the one in Australia where you have to pick up the vases and stuff.
Yeah, and then weigh out the... But on this occasion, they got the Polaroid cameras. Sponsored or not sponsored? That's the question.
I know. They didn't mention it, but they were all there.
They were holding... They all had
I didn't
one.
see logos.
And Philly was taking photographs without needing to take photographs of the statues. He
Yeah.
was just trigger happy with his finger.
Yeah, took a photo of Paul
On his
walking off
Instagram?
with his... I have to have a look.
So they had to find the music box that corresponded to the tune that was being played, and inside the music box there was a Polaroid picture of a statue which was in this large garden. Then they had to go to that statue, take a photograph of it, and give it to Paul as his birthday present.
Lots of running.
Lots of huffing
Lots of
about.
out of breath.
No tracksuits. We spotted this time around that they're not given a special.
I think that's why they're
suit.
struggling with the action.
Feels
They're
a
not in the right
shame.
costumes.
Yeah. Oh, you say they're struggling, but they've won pretty much every game. Again, this one they got 3 out of 3, so they've increased their prize pot to 14,500 New Zealand dollars.
Oh, hey. Looks so little on the table, though, doesn't it?
It just looks just a little bit sad with all those silver bars, because there's like 10 bars there, and they're even trying to stack them up higher now. But it's like, because they're trying to make them look higher rather than wider, the table's too large. If you're not going to have that many silver bars, you need to make that table smaller. Otherwise, it's just
quite
looks
small. But...
It looks like a speck of dust on on a large scale. It just doesn't look right. But anyway, they did really well.
Yeah.
It's
their time to relax.
Not much to say on that game, really.
No, it's just their relaxed time, isn't it? And then
the game.
The game, yeah, that's where they relax. So they don't have to think about traitors or murder or...
They have to work as a team.
Let's play a game together.
Yeah.
And then, yes, we get to the round table, where I might say, actually, now, that I feel that these group of contestants may be the most sort of smartest, relaxed, thoughtful. They process things. They don't just jump on and vote someone off for coughing or something. They're a smart bunch, these lot.
Probably
they're very calm as well. They don't all vote for someone and go for it. They suspect someone, they talk. Someone else says, no, you're jumping on the bandwagon here. They all reflect, and then they vote off a faithful by accident. But it's like they're playing it differently to what other people on other series have played, I feel.
I mean, they would have been really lucky if they knocked out another traitor. But they were going down, you're right, they were going down the right road. Perhaps because they know each other off the show, they're able to be more comfortable around each other. Another tick for the show. There's lots and lots of throwing. So first of all, they started off by talking one by one to the 3 people who didn't vote for Lauren in the last round table. Vanda said that she didn't really know why, but she kind of didn't realise that the group were feeling that way. Yeah. Colin voted for Vanda, and he kind of kept his theories on Vanda until some of the group started to then say that they didn't believe it was Vanda. Vanda got quite upset.
She was
with
acting
that.
very faithful-like.
And Colin then kind of looked at Vanda and said, I believe you're faithful too. And that really riled up the group immediately. And the group started jeering him, didn't they? They also go, boo.
It's because he's the way he says stuff and like his face. What he says and what his face says are two different things.
Yeah, it was that
and
smile.
You're like, are you being sarcastic? Are you just jumping on this because you're worried about yourself? It was
weird. Just that smile when he turned when he said that, and then he turned to the rest of the group, and there was almost a smugness to it.
Kicked off, didn't she?
But she really did. But I know what you're saying. You're absolutely right. I don't think he means to do it. He just does it. But I think Brody's getting suspicious of him. I think there's an underlying suspicion of Colin right now, and I think Colin needs to be careful.
He's up for the votes next episode.
Definitely. Absolutely, definitely. But, I mean, this was the opportunity Dylan had to tell the whole group that he saw Mike sit back when everyone was cheering.
Didn't celebrate Lauren's death.
And that really got caught on quickly. Like, he threw the match into the fire and it just burned. The whole group. And I don't think a lot of them really suspected Mike at this point. But as soon as he said that, the whole group all turned to Mike. And you could see Mike kind of starting to sweat a little bit and
like,
worry.
What? Me?
Yeah. And then they asked him, it was like, which I thought was a bit of a dumb question. It was like, so Mike, did you really do that? And it was like, well, Mike's not going to say yes, is he?
Plus, you can't really remember how you react because you're not watching yourself. Which is what Mike said.
Yeah. Mike was like, well, I can't remember how I reacted. I just reacted.
That's when Vanda's time to shine came in because she supported him like a true faithful would.
Exactly.
And that's when everyone was like, oh, you're not a traitor because you're, the blame is off of you. But now saying that, you could have diverted it back to yourself. But you're just such a faithful, nice girl that then a crocodile tears appeared and Colin... I'm joking.
Brody stood up for Vanda too, before the round table as well. She kind of heard lots of people talking about Vanda, and she was adamant. She was like, no, I can't. I don't see what other people are seeing.
Because she stuck up for Robbie last time, didn't she? Which happened to the same thing.
And she felt really frustrated. And again, she kind of then also jumped on Colin and said, like, you were the one who started the pack mentality toward Robbie. I was the one who said, come on, no, that's not right. You're doing the same thing again with Vanda. I'm telling you you're wrong. And again, so there's that tension between Colin and Brody now.
I'm wondering if Brody could see herself getting murdered, though, if she keeps... Because she's the one who keeps calming people down and making them think. She's done it twice now, where they could have got rid of a faithful, and she's made them stop and think and then reevaluate. So I'm wondering if she may be one of those... We need to murder you before you become too influential.
But she doesn't say anything that kind of... Other than... She says who she doesn't think it is, but she never says who she does. So I don't think Brody quite qualifies just yet to be that kind of like influential enough to kind of make a point.
No, but it's dangerous making people think. Because before they were all just going to all follow each other and go for Vanda. And it's Brody who made them stop and think, and she did the same to Robbie as well.
Robbie wasn't quiet at the round table though. She piped up and said and reminded everyone that Lauren, with her vote, was Dylan, and whether that's
why
exactly does that throw suspicion at Dylan as her last ditch attempt to try to like stop being backstabbed and go for a traitor herself. And so she's accused Dylan of being a traitor, and unfortunately for Dylan, he was the influence for everyone to vote for Mike. So that kind of points the finger at Dylan a little further, because that makes people maybe think that Dylan deliberately made people vote for a traitor.
And no one's suspecting Dan apart from Brooke, but no one else suspecting him. But a few people have been suspecting Matt, haven't they? So
I thought it was the other way around. I thought more people were suspecting Dan.
No, the only one who's suspecting Dan is Brooke. Everyone else likes him or haven't mentioned him.
Oh.
And I think a few people were starting to say they believe Matt is one. I think Robbie was one of them.
Well, at the breakfast table, a couple of people, I don't know who
and
it was.
And Justine as well. She thinks Matt as well.
Well, a couple of people said that it would, in a quote here, a direct quote, so you can write this in your papers. It would blow their mind. It would blow my mind if Matt was a traitor. So I think there's a bit of a mixed reaction, but this leads nicely. So, well, okay. So first of all, then, the one who got eliminated ultimately was Mike with 8 votes.
Yeah.
Julie...
Broadcaster Mike,
who has friends on the show. Julia...
Broadcaster Brody.
Julia had 2 votes, and that was from Philly and Kings. Now, they both openly admitted that they don't have a clue, but they wanted to throw a name out there. I don't think they're being honest here. I think that Philly and Kings have had a little conversation between them, and that they, which we've not seen on screen.
If they're buddies, you can tell they're friends.
Yep, they're talking
probably
to one
from the
another.
Outside.
Probably. And they're talking to each other, and they're clearly thinking Julia is a threat.
She was quite quiet this episode. I didn't really see her until the round table.
But I wonder if that's going to make people start kind of jumping on that idea, because they were honest about it. They said, we don't, because they were quiet around the round table, Philly and Kings as well. And it wasn't until they then explained why they voted for who they voted for that they said that the names that you all as a group are throwing out doesn't make sense to me. And what I say we, the royal we perhaps, there's Julia is a name to think about. Anyway.
Boys Club, though, got brought up, didn't it?
Oh, Robbie said,
all
everyone who's gone has been female, apart from tonight.
But then they're recruiting someone. It's between 2 men. It was either Kings or...
Anna.
Oh, was Anna one of the options?
Anna was an option too. Colin got 3
they didn't
votes.
Go with her. They went with a man.
Dylan got 2. Matt voted for Colin. I think this is important as well. We'd see the traitors vote for. Matt voted for Colin, and Dan voted for Dylan. So I feel like Dan wants to get
suspicion on them.
Yeah, and again, when they get to the turret as well, Dan mentions that Dylan is up for suspicion. So I think they kind of know that Dylan is pretty much close to getting on the chop. But yes, so anyway, the banishment happened. Mike said, I'm not a traitor. Everyone's like, oh dear.
Did anyone slump down?
No one cheered either. And then we got to Traitor Towers, where they made the decision not to murder, but to recruit. Exciting.
Yeah, I think that was silly. They should have just carried on because they're not under suspicion yet. And recruiting just makes people reset the game and think anyone can now be a traitor.
Well,
so I think it's a bit early.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that I think they're in such a strong position that there's two people who are pretty much on the radar by most of the group. I think by them kind of recruiting, it's not such a big reset as in if they didn't have anyone who was under suspicion right now. That's the only thing I would say. But I'm with you. I would have gone for a murder.
It's a bit early, I think.
I would have gone for a murder.
It resets the game when you do that because literally you put yourself back up for suspicion because you could have been recruited.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit silly. But we don't know if he accepts yet.
Well, this is it. Brooke has been thrown in as a recruit and has been asked to join them. Anna was also given as a name because she's in the game and she's good at facilitating ideas, is what they said. Kings was brought up, but kind of was then pushed to one side.
Yeah,
quite
not
quickly.
enough influence.
So Brooke, now see, I think this is dangerous for Matt because as we've mentioned already on the show, Dan and Brooke are friends outside of the show. Dan has already openly said to like producers and like pieces to camera that he wanted to keep Brooke in the game because he would be good as someone he could keep on side and they could start an alliance. Yeah. So I fear for Dan on this decision. And
Not Dan, Matt. You fear for Matt.
I fear for Matt because I think that Matt, we've seen in the past as well, that Matt, you know, I don't think it would take much for Dan and Brooke to kind of
backstab.
like... Yeah, it would take one or two people to kind of... You've even mentioned that Matt seems to be the name that people were bringing up more. It would only take a couple more people and Dan and Brooke, I think would have no shadow of a doubt that would have any fear of like teaming up and deciding to then push the Matt agenda and get rid of him.
Although we don't know if Brooke is going to accept. Because if he doesn't accept, he could... then say I was tried to be recruited and I know who the traitor is, and because he knows it's Dan and he could get the votes to get Dan out.
That's true. That's very true.
He wanted to risk that with a few people to get his numbers up.
I think Brooke will accept. I do. I think Brooke will accept. I think Brooke knows that he's in such a strong position. He's liked by the group. He feeds information to the group. He is trusted by the group. I think he knows that he's in a very strong position to do well as a traitor.
Yeah, it's just whether... It's because he knows that Dan is a traitor, so he must know that he's invited him.
That's why he's been invited.
Yeah, so it's whether he wants to play along with his mate or stay with the faithfuls, and he could rally around and get them Dan off. He could say, I was suspicious of Dan anyway. I got a letter sent to me to recruit me. It was Dan. Vote him out.
We've seen in the past, though, that when people admit that they've been recruited...
It depends how he does it or who he says it to and how he does it. But you could play it that way if you wanted to prove your sort of loyalty by getting rid of your best friend.
I wonder if Dan... Oh, there he is. The cat's here, everyone. Here. You need to play the Sam sound clip because he is our cat.
Who's Sam?
Yeah. We got one! Remember?
We got one! We got a traitor!
That's what our cat sounds like. Right. What was I saying? I've completely gone off track now.
Brooke and Dan.
Brooke and Dan. What about Brooke and Dan? I genuinely forgot what I was saying. Oh, no. If it'd be interesting to see if the production company, I presume, will mention that someone has been recruited or not. That's the other thing I was going to say.
Oh yeah.
I hope they don't because I prefer.
I think they will because, well, no one's been murdered, so they'll know. Because Paul said, "Oh yeah, I wonder how many of you will be at breakfast tomorrow," didn't he? So
I forgot about that. But would they mention it even if he doesn't accept? Because then,
if
he's in that,
then there's no one murdered. Yeah,
but if he's in that position, would you then, if it was brought up, he said, "Oh, they tried to recruit, but the person they tried to recruit said no." If you were in that position, would you then say that person was me?
Yeah. Or did you accept and you're saying you didn't say, yeah.
And what's crazier is, can you imagine if like someone who wasn't invited says, "Oh yeah, that was me." just to kind of like mess around with the group.
That would be-
Or one of the traitors.
Oh yeah, Dan might step up and say,
Dan.
"Yeah, I got a letter."
Dan might say, I got the letter.
I said no.
Which could then really push suspicion away from him.
Or people don't believe him and think he said yes. Could go either way.
It could go anyway, can't it? It's all good.
We'll find out very soon.
Gravy.
So, there you go. Do you want to do the goodbyes?
Oh, okay. This is very formal. Very, very structured episode this is. Like, for the last few episodes, we've just been a mess. Like,
We haven't.
Like jelly just flopping all over the place. This episode, we're like...
I were a coin, where would I be?
There you go.
I'm like a stiff trifle. Right, so if you want to get in touch with us, we are on Twitter or X.
Stop saying X.
Well, it is X now.
No, it's not.
It's very confusing. At Traitors Podcast. We're on Instagram, soon to be Threads, at Faithful to the Traitors. You can email us, faithfultothetraitors@gmail.com. We've had a few discussion points on this episode, so please do get in touch with us. We're recording it as it's broadcast in New Zealand, so you've got loads of time. So if you want us to answer any questions, or you want to throw out some points or some observations you've made that we've skipped or missed or kind of just flown over very quickly, then do get in touch with us and we'll read them out on the show. If you enjoy the show and you want to support us, then we would love you. We would actually come to your house and give you a great big sloppy kiss. I know Ben would. He wants to kiss someone right now. And if you did want Ben to give you a big kiss, then you could go to buymeacoffee.com/faithful. And on there you can throw a little bit of change our way to support the show and help us out as well. But another way you can help us out, if you can't afford to financially help us out, then you can help us out by giving us clicks. And you can do that by going to your podcatcher, either Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of them, and then rating us 5 stars, and also
5
writing
stars for Faithful.
5 for Faithful, and a comment to say why you love the podcast so much. And also you can say on there who your favourite host is. Is it Ben or is it me?
Oh, I thought you meant host of the Traitors.
Oh, your host of host of the actual Traitors. So if you do that, if you have friends who watch Traitors, tell them about the podcast. If you're on social media all the time talking about the Traitors, tell them about the podcast. Everything can help us out, and it'll be really great to get loads of people on board, because the more people on board, the bigger the community, the more fun we all have.
That's right. Well done.
Thank
Finished?
you. Sorry, was that too much?
No, it's all good.
All the music's playing. I better get off stage. Yeah.
So there you go. That was another episode of Faithful to the Traitors, and we will find out in the next episode if we've got another traitor in our mix.